Welcome to Starbound. My name's Chikondi, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Sunspire Academy and Farron and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now let's get into today's story. Captain Devon Harris leaned against the viewport in the human quarters of peacekeeping vessel Harmony, watching the blue-green world of Vega 9 grow larger as they approached. His reflection stared back at him from the reinforced glass, a decorated former Special Forces operative with eyes that had seen too much combat during Earth's isolated conflicts. The pristine white and blue Galactic Peace Corps uniform felt like a costume rather than the practical combat gear he'd worn for most of his career. It was designed for appearance rather than function, much like humans' role in the Corps itself. The irony wasn't lost on him. Humanity's most capable soldiers had been reduced to glorified diplomats because the galactic community saw them as emotionally insightful, rather than what they truly were: apex predators, evolved through millennia of hunting and warfare.
Captain?
Lieutenant Sophia Lorenzo's voice pulled him from his thoughts.
The team's assembled for final briefing.
Devon nodded, straightening his immaculate uniform. Thank you, Sophia. I'll be right there. He followed her through the curved corridors of the Harmony. The vessel was a marvel of galactic engineering, smooth, ergonomic, with biological components integrated seamlessly with technology. Like everything in the Galactic Council's domain, it was designed for beings that had evolved as cooperators and consensus builders, rather than competitors and predators. The human team waited in their designated common area, a space noticeably separate from the main crew quarters. Lieutenant Lorenzo took her seat alongside Specialist Marlowe Reed, a communications expert with an easygoing manner that masked extensive combat experience. Dr. Monique Washington, their medical officer, was reviewing data on her tablet. Her battlefield trauma experience vastly exceeded her official role, but the Corps never acknowledged this discrepancy. Sergeant Eli Kane, their security specialist, paced the room with barely contained energy, perpetually frustrated by the restrictions placed on human peacekeepers. All right, Devon began, activating the holographic display. Let's review the situation on Vega 9. The display showed a massive mining facility carved into a mountain range, alongside settlements of indigenous colonists spread through valleys rich with vegetation. The Krith Mining Consortium claims legal rights to extract iridium and other rare minerals from lands the local colonists consider sacred, Devon explained. The colonists have blocked mining operations for the past 3 lunar cycles, and tensions are escalating. Our mission is to support Commander Trelvik's peacekeeping unit during negotiations.
And by support, you mean stand in the corner looking empathetic while the real peacekeepers handle everything?
Eli remarked, his voice edged with frustration. Devon gave him a warning look, though he couldn't disagree. We all know our parameters. Observe, advise the peacekeepers, provide human perspective. Reduced to fucking emotional support animals, Marlowe quipped, generating bitter chuckles around the room.
I've analyzed the colonists from previous negotiations,
Monique added, her dark fingers swiping through data.
They tend to pick up on emotions quickly, aka they're flighty. They might be able to sense any negative emotions we show, which could undermine the proceedings.
Devon nodded. Good point. Whatever our personal feelings, this mission needs our best face. The Krith are pushing for a show of force, and if Commander Trelvik sides with them, this could get ugly fast. The ship's communication system chimed with a soft tone designed to be soothing to most galactic species, but that humans found slightly irritating. Captain Harris, came the melodic voice of Commander Trelvik. Your presence is required for mission briefing. Acknowledged, Commander. On my way. Devon looked at his team. Final equipment check. Standard loadout only. Visible defensive tools might be seen as provocative. The unspoken message was clear. The non-regulation equipment needed to remain concealed. Earth's agreement with the Galactic Council limited human peacekeepers to non-lethal deterrence, but every human team found ways around these restrictions. "Let's move," Devon ordered. "And remember, we're the calm, empathetic humans everyone expects." The smiles that answered him held no humor at all. Commander Trelvik towered over Devon in the mission briefing room. The Balmori officer's 4 upper limbs manipulated holographic controls while his lower limbs maintained perfect balance. His exoskeleton reflected the blue light of displays, and his compound eyes focused independently on different data streams. "Captain Harris," Trelvik acknowledged without looking at Devon directly. "We approach Vega 9. The situation has escalated since our mission was authorized." "What's changed, Commander?" "Krith Mining Director Rav Koreth has taken direct control of negotiations. He is known for his aggressive negotiation." The Galaxies manipulators rearranged the display to show a heavily armored Krith. "Additionally, the colonists have elected a new representative, Shara Muluk Amaldeen." The image shifted to show a willowy humanoid with translucent skin through which complex circulatory patterns were visible. Her large, completely dark eyes dominated a delicate face. "As you may know, Vegalians are a fierce native species, primitive technologically from galactic standard, but effective advocates, not to mention emotionally volatile." Trelvik's mandibles clicked with what Devon had learned to recognize as dismissal. "This is where your team's function will be most valuable. We hope humans' remarkable diplomatic capacity can help stabilize negotiations when Vegalian emotions become disruptive." Devon noted the assumptions layered in Trelvik's assessment, but kept his expression neutral. Humans weren't particularly diplomatic or empathetic compared to many species. They were simply better at reading hostile intent and anticipating violence. Skills evolved from millennia as both predator and prey. "I've reviewed the facility schematics," Devon said, manipulating the display to highlight several areas. "These access points seem vulnerable. We should consider additional security measures, especially here and here." He indicated blind spots in the surveillance system. Trelvik's upper limbs stilled. "Captain Harris, your input is valued where you are needed. The Galactic Peace Corps has established appropriate security protocols for such negotiations." Devon swallowed his pride, accepting the familiar dismissal. "Of course, Commander. Just offering perspective." "Noted," Trelvik responded in a tone that clearly indicated it would be promptly ignored. "Your team will focus on monitoring emotional atmospherics and providing human insight when requested. The sensitive nature of these negotiations requires delicate handling by experienced peacekeepers." The implied hierarchy was clear. Despite 5 years of exemplary service in the Corps, Devon and his human team remained firmly at the bottom of the pecking order. Useful for their supposed emotional intelligence, but never taken seriously as tactical assets. "We understand our role, Commander," Devon replied with practiced deference. "My team will be ready to support in whatever capacity you require." Trelvik seemed satisfied with the response. "Good! We dock in 30 minutes. Ensure your team is properly attired in ceremonial uniforms. The Krith respond well to formal presentations of authority." After Trelvik dismissed him, Devon stood alone in the corridor, allowing himself a moment of frustration before returning to his team. 5 years of this treatment had taught him patience, but it never got easier. His mind drifted back to his recruitment into the Galactic Peace Corps. After distinguished military service on Earth, he'd been approached by the human GPC representative, a diplomat who'd explained that humanity's admission to the Galactic Council came with conditions. Humans would be granted observer status only, limited to non-combat peacekeeping roles due to the Council's assessment of humans as emotionally evolved prey species with remarkable diplomatic capabilities. The characterization had both amused and concerned Earth's leadership, but they'd accepted the misclassification as politically expedient. First contact had occurred during a global peace summit, showing humanity at its cooperative best. Better to be seen as diplomatic prey than risk being classified as dangerous predators and potentially excluded from galactic society. Devon had volunteered despite warnings that his combat skills would be deliberately underutilized. He believed humanity needed representatives who understood both diplomacy and warfare. He had lost too many people when one was wielded without the other. 5 years later, that belief had been tested daily, but never broken. Straightening his shoulders, he headed back to prepare his team for whatever awaited them on Vega 9. The peacekeeping delegation disembarked from their shuttle into the massive cathedral-like Krith mining facility. Soaring ceilings of polished stone, supported by geometric chitinous architectural elements, created an atmosphere of intimidating grandeur. Devon immediately noted surveillance blind spots, multiple unsecured entry points, and the conspicuous absence of key Krith security protocols he'd studied in preparation for the mission. Devon caught Sophia's eye, giving her the subtle hand signal they'd developed to indicate potential threat environments. She nodded almost imperceptibly and began quietly relaying the warning to the rest of their team. The delegation was greeted by Krith Mining Director Rav Koreth, an imposing figure whose segmented body was partially encased in ceremonial armor inlaid with precious metals. His compound eyes reflected the delegation in fractured images as he performed elaborate greeting gestures.
The Krith Mining Consortium welcomes the Galactic Peace Corps,
Rav Koreth announced, his translator rendering his clicks and chirps into standard galactic language.
We appreciate your intervention in this unfortunate dispute.
Commander Trelvik stepped forward, his own ceremonial armor gleaming.
The Corps maintains neutrality while seeking resolution beneficial to all parties.
Colony Representative Shara stood slightly apart from the Krith delegation. Her translucent skin pulsed with colors that Devon recognized as indicators of emotional state in Vegalians, currently showing tension and distrust.
We welcome peace,
She said, her melodic voice carrying subtle layered harmonics that resonated across the chamber.
but peace requires justice, not merely resolution.
Devon observed the subtle shifts in posture among the Krith representatives, mandibles clicking rapidly in signs of irritation. The Balmori peacekeepers seemed oblivious to these cues, but Devon's team noticed immediately, exchanging glances loaded with meaning. As the formal introductions continued, Devon kept his attention divided between the proceedings and the environment. Something felt wrong. The security presence was simultaneously too visible in ceremonial positions and notably absent in tactically significant locations. Either the Krith were incompetent at security protocols, unlikely given their military history, or this was deliberately staged. The delegation moved into a large conference chamber with a circular table, designed to eliminate hierarchical positioning. Devon noted that the Krith representatives seemed uncomfortable with the arrangement, but complied with obvious reluctance. Before the negotiations could begin anew, a series of explosions rocked the facility. The conference chamber's doors slammed shut as armored Krith militants swarmed in from concealed entries, weapons raised. Unlike the ceremonial guards, these wore functional combat gear and moved with military precision. The Balmori peacekeepers reacted according to their training, moving to protect the diplomats while reaching for their ceremonial but functional weapons. They never had a chance to use them. The militants activated devices that emitted high-frequency pulses, dropping the Balmori instantly. Their specialized nervous systems proved catastrophically vulnerable to the targeted technology. Devon and his team, physiologically different enough to be unaffected, nonetheless followed his quick hand signal and collapsed as if incapacitated. Through slitted eyes, Devon watched as the militants secured the chamber, communicating in rapid Krith battle language.
The Balmori are neutralized.
One reported to a figure Devon recognized as Sub-Director Krasvex, previously introduced as Rav Koreth's administrative assistant.
The humans appear affected as well.
Unsurprising.
Krasvex responded with clicking mandibles that Devon's translator rendered as amusement.
Secure the primary targets first. The emotional support animals can wait.
Devon suppressed his reaction to the dismissive characterization, focusing instead on gathering intelligence as diplomats were seized and restrained. The militants were efficient, but not particularly careful with their apparently unconscious humans, roughly dragging them to a collection point near the chamber's periphery. Krasvex approached Commander Trelvik, who was beginning to show signs of recovery from the initial neural pulse.
Commander, your presence here is valuable. The Galactic Council will pay attention when we demonstrate the consequences of supporting the colonists' unreasonable demands.
The core does not respond to force, Trelvik managed, his speech slightly slurred.
Everyone responds to force when applied correctly,
Krasvex replied.
Prepare the communication system. We will transmit our demands within the hour.
As the militants focused on securing the more valuable hostages, Devon waited for his moment. During a momentary disruption caused by a diplomat's resistance in a separate room, Devon led his team in a strategic withdrawal behind storage containers, then into a maintenance accessway he'd noted during their arrival. Within minutes, they had disappeared into the facility's infrastructure, leaving the militants unaware that their most dangerous opponents were now free to act.
12 militants visible on security feeds,
Sophia reported.
27 hostages secured in the main conference chamber, including Commander Trelvik.
The human team had regrouped in a maintenance sublevel, converting a storage closet into an impromptu command center. Emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across their faces as they stripped off their ceremonial outer uniforms, revealing the more functional clothing beneath.
What about Council observers?
Devon asked, studying the security feed over Sophia's shoulder.
2 present. They arrived unannounced just before the attack.
Sophia highlighted figures wearing the distinctive silver-gray robes of Council authority.
Senior Observer Nils Drav and Secondary Observer Telix Vorn.
Convenient timing,
Eli remarked, checking the compact non-lethal deterrents they were permitted to carry, and the definitely not permitted compact weapons he'd concealed in his equipment.
Almost like they knew something was going down.
Let's not jump to conclusions, Dev cautioned, though the coincidence troubled him. Marlowe, any luck with communications? Marlowe shook his head.
All authorized channels are blocked by sophisticated jamming technology. This isn't standard Krith equipment. It's military grade, possibly Council tech. I'm trying to establish a limited connection using maintenance frequencies, but it'll take time.
We may not have time,
Monique pointed out, organizing her medical supplies.
I've been monitoring militant communications through the internal system. They're planning to execute hostages if their demands aren't met, beginning with non-essential personnel in 6 hours.
Devon processed this information, weighing their limited options against GPC protocols. The regulations were explicit. Human peacekeepers were forbidden from engaging in unauthorized combat operations under any circumstances. If they intervened and failed, it would set human integration in the core back decades. If they did nothing, people would die.
We need to wait for authorization,
Marlowe suggested, though his tone lacked conviction.
The Council will respond when the Harmony reports our situation.
The Harmony won't know anything's wrong until we miss our check-in,
Sophia countered.
That's 4 hours away, and these militants seem to be on the accelerated timeline.
We're not sitting this out, Devon decided, his voice hardening. I'm not watching hostages die while waiting for bureaucratic approval.
You're talking about violating direct standing orders,
Marlowe warned.
That's the end of your career, possibly all our careers.
Devon met each team member's eyes in turn. I'm not ordering any of you to participate. This is my decision, and I'll accept the consequences.
but I cannot and will not stand by when we have the capability to act.
Eli grinned, checking the charge on his deterrent.
And about damn time we showed what humans can really do. I'm in.
You'll need medical support,
Monique added simply.
I'm in too.
Sophia and Marlowe exchanged glances, then nodded in unison.
We're with you, Captain,
Sophia confirmed.
but we need a plan that doesn't get everyone killed.
Devon activated the facility schematics they'd downloaded.
Then let's make one. We have limited resources, restrictive rules of engagement, and we're outnumbered.
For the first time since joining the Galactic Peace Corps, Devon felt the restrictions fall away. The predator within, so long leashed by diplomatic necessity, stirred to wakefulness. Devon moved silently through the ventilation shaft, his breathing controlled and his movements precise. Years of Special Forces training before joining the Corps had prepared him for exactly this kind of operation, though he'd never expected to use those skills while wearing a Peacekeeper's insignia.
Team check,
he whispered into his communication implant.
Alpha in position,
came Eli's response.
Environmental systems secured.
Beta ready,
Sophia reported.
Security network compromised and looped. They'll see what we want them to see.
Gamma holding,
Marlowe added.
Jamming systems identified. I can create a 30-second window in communications when needed.
Medical standing by,
Monique confirmed from their makeshift command post. Devon reached his destination, a ventilation grate overlooking a small security office where 2 militants monitored communications. From his position, he could see the main hostage location on their displays. The plan was methodical. Isolate and reduce the militants' numbers by drawing them away from the hostages, then create an opportunity for evacuation. No lethal force unless absolutely necessary.
Initiating Phase 1,
Devon confirmed. Across the facility, Eli activated a series of controlled malfunctions in the environmental systems. Temperature regulation failed in specific sections, prompting alarms. Air pressure fluctuated in others. Non-essential lighting systems surged and failed in patterns designed to suggest system degradation rather than deliberate sabotage. The militants below Devon reacted predictably, dispatching teams to investigate the malfunctions. Security procedures demanded maintaining environmental integrity in a facility carved into a mountain.
2 targets moving to Section 7,
Devon reported as the militants left their station.
Proceeding to Phase 2.
He removed the ventilation grate with practiced efficiency, then dropped silently into the security office. His movements were fluid and economical as he accessed their systems, creating the opening Sophia needed to complete her infiltration of their security network.
Network secured,
Sophia confirmed moments later.
I've identified Krasvex's location. He's in what appears to be a private communication suite, separate from the main hostage area. Route is heavily fortified.
Interesting,
Devon murmured.
Who's he communicating with during a hostage crisis?
Working on that,
Sophia responded.
But I found something else. 3 hostages are being held separately from the main group. One appears to be Shara.
Devon made a quick decision.
Change of plan. I'm going after the isolated hostages first. We can use them as a distraction to hopefully pull Krasvex out. That's deviation from the operation plan,
Marlowe warned.
Noted. Proceeding anyway.
Devon moved to the office exit, checking the corridor.
Maintain surveillance and continue as planned. I'll extract the secondary hostages and rendezvous at Checkpoint 2.
He slipped into the corridor, moving like a shadow. The Krith facility, designed for beings with exoskeletons and multiple limbs, featured architectural elements that provided abundant cover for a human moving with purpose. Devon used every advantage, timing his movements between security sweeps that Sophia tracked and reported. The isolated hostages were held in what appeared to be a records storage room, guarded by a single militant. Devon waited until the guard completed a check-in, then moved. His approach was silent until the last possible moment, when he deliberately scuffed his boot against the floor, just enough noise to make the guard turn. The militant spun, weapon raising, but Devon was already inside his reaction arc. A precision strike to nerve clusters that Monique had identified in Krith physiology disrupted motor control without causing permanent damage. The guard collapsed, and Devon secured him with restraints from his equipment. Inside the storage room, 3 figures huddled together. A junior Balmori diplomat, a Krith administrative aide who appeared to be a hostage rather than a collaborator, and Shara Dean. The Vegalian's eyes widened at Devon's appearance.
You!
She whispered.
The human!
We need to move quickly. My team is creating diversions, but it won't keep the militants occupied forever, Devon responded, checking the corridor before gesturing them to follow. The Balmori diplomat seemed disoriented, still suffering effects from the neural pulse. The Krith aide helped support him as they moved into the corridor. This way, Devon directed, leading them toward a service passage Sophia had identified as a secure route to their rendezvous point. They'd made it halfway when a patrol rounded the corner unexpectedly, a deviation from the pattern Sophia had tracked. The militant leader registered surprise, then recognition as he identified Devon's uniform beneath the grime of ventilation shafts. "Human!" he snarled, reaching for his weapon. Devon pushed the hostages behind him and moved with predatory speed. No choice now but direct confrontation. The militant was larger, stronger, and armored, but Devon had spent a lifetime honing his body into a weapon. The fight was brief but intense. The militant's exoskeleton provided natural protection, but Devon targeted joints and sensory organs with precision. His movements shifted subtly as combat instincts took over, pupils dilating to capture maximum light, muscles coordinating with predatory efficiency, breathing and heart rate adjusting automatically for optimal performance. The Krith's combat style was based on intimidation and overwhelming force, qualities evolved to establish dominance in territorial disputes. It had never evolved to counter a true predator's focused lethality. Within seconds, the militant lay unconscious, and Devon turned to find Shara staring at him with an expression of knowing recognition rather than fear.
You are not what the Council tells us humans are,
she said quietly. No time, Devon responded, gesturing urgently toward their escape route. We need to move before his absence is noticed. In a maintenance sublevel converted to a temporary safe zone, Devon finally had the opportunity to question Shara Dean while Monique examined the other rescued hostages. What is going on here? Do you know anything about this? Devon said. Shara's translucent skin rippled with colors indicating complex emotions.
Not specifically. I sensed deception from the Krith delegation during preliminary communications. When I saw the security configuration upon arrival, I recognized the pattern from previous incidents.
Previous incidents? Devon pressed. This isn't an isolated event.
This dispute is a cover for something much larger,
Shara explained, her voice lowering despite their secure location.
The Krith discovered a rare mineral on Vega 9 that affects telepathic abilities, an amplifier unlike anything previously documented. Certain council members want it controlled.
For what purpose?
Political leverage.
Shara's colors darkened.
Telepathic amplification would allow unprecedented influence in council proceedings. The militants aren't just radical Krith nationalists. They're working for council factions.
The implications were staggering. Not just a hostage situation, but a conspiracy reaching into galactic governance. That explains the council observer's convenient arrival, Devon concluded. But why take hostages? Why not simply seize the mineral deposits?
Indigenous rights provisions in council law protect the deposits as long as colonists maintain claim to the land. A resolution of the dispute that grants mining rights would circumvent those protections.
Shara's gaze was steady.
The crisis creates pretext for a council emergency ruling.
Before Devon could respond, his communication implant activated with Sophia's voice.
Captain, situation changing rapidly. Krasvex is moving hostages. Looks like they're accelerating their timeline.
Understood. Rendezvous at checkpoint 3. Devon turned to Shara. Can you get these others to safety if I provide directions?
Yes, but what are you going to do?
Devon's expression hardened. What we do best: adapt, improvise, overcome. The team regrouped at Checkpoint 3, a maintenance junction providing access to multiple facility systems. Devon quickly briefed them on Shara's revelations while they updated operational status.
Communications jamming has been modified, Marlowe reported. They're now allowing tight beam transmission to a specific frequency, almost certainly to their council contacts.
I've identified the jamming source, Sophia added. We could disable it, but they'd know immediately it was deliberate.
What about the hostages? Devon asked.
Consolidated in the main processing chamber, Eli reported. Fewer guards, but more efficient containment. They've established a kill zone around the access points.
Kravex is preparing for some kind of announcement,
Sophia continued, displaying security footage on her portable screen.
He set up communication equipment in what looks like an execution station.
Devon studied the layout, integrating the new information with their existing plan.
They're forcing a crisis point to pressure the Council into immediate action. We need to move now before any hostages are harmed.
Direct assault would be suicide, Eli pointed out. Even with surprise, we're outnumbered and outgunned.
Then we change the parameters, Devon decided. Sophia, can you access the processing chamber's control systems?
Already done. What are you thinking?
The Krith evolved on a high-radiation world. Their visual spectrum is shifted toward ultraviolet. Devon's mind raced through tactical possibilities. Can you override the lighting systems in the processing chamber? Sophia grinned as she understood.
Create a human advantage. Yes, I can modulate the spectrum to interfere with Krith visual processing while optimizing for human vision.
Do it, Devon ordered. Eli, we need a distraction to draw attention from Sophia's lighting manipulation. Something significant, but not immediately threatening to the hostages.
Waste processing system runs directly beneath the chamber, Eli suggested. A controlled malfunction would create substantial noise and vibration.
Make it happen. Devon turned to Marcus. When we move, we need a brief communications window to transmit evidence of the conspiracy to the Harmony. 30 seconds should be sufficient.
I'll create a focused disruption in the jamming field,
Marlowe confirmed,
but it will be detected almost immediately.
That's why timing is critical. Devon laid out the modified plan, assigning specific tasks to each team member. We move in 15 minutes. Take position and await my signal. Devon positioned himself in a maintenance access way above the processing chamber, watching through a ventilation grate as Krasvex prepared his announcement. Commander Trelvik and the Council observers were prominently displayed, their restraints visible to the planned broadcast audience. The remaining hostages knelt in rows, surrounded by militants whose weapons remained trained on them.
Transmission preparations complete,
announced one of the technicians.
Ready on your command, Subdirector.
Krasvex stepped forward, mandibles arranged in what Devon recognized as a gesture of formal authority.
Begin transmission to Council Emergency Channel.
Devon activated his communication implant. All positions, report.
Alpha in position.
Eli's voice was calm, professional.
Beta ready.
Sophia sounded focused, determined.
Gamma standing by.
Marcus, steady as always.
Medical prepared.
Monique, whose role would become crucial very soon.
Execute,
Devon ordered. The plan unfolded with precision. First, the waste processing system beneath the chamber malfunctioned spectacularly, creating a rumbling vibration that drew the militants' attention downward. Seconds later, the lighting systems shifted, imperceptible to human eyes, but disorienting to Krith visual systems evolved for different wavelengths. As the militants struggled to adjust, Devon gave the final command. Now! Sophia triggered the emergency ventilation protocols, filling the chamber with harmless but visually obscuring vapor. Simultaneously, Eli created secondary environmental malfunctions that forced the militants to divide their attention. Devon dropped from the accessway into the spreading vapor, moving immediately toward the nearest group of hostages. His vision, optimized by the spectrum shift Sophia had implemented, allowed him to navigate efficiently while the militants struggled with degraded visual input. "Stay down," he instructed the hostages as he severed their restraints with a multi-tool. "Move toward the east exit when I give the signal." A militant emerged from the vapor, weapon raised. Devon engaged without hesitation, his movements flowing with predatory efficiency. The fight was brief and decisive, ending with the militant incapacitated. Across the chamber, Devon could sense more than see his team executing their assignments with similar precision. Devon worked his way toward Commander Trelvik and the Council observers, neutralizing 2 more militants through the advantage of superior situational adaptation. The Council observers watched with expressions of shock as Devon emerged from the vapor to release their restraints.
This is unauthorized intervention,
Observer Drav stated, though he offered no resistance to being freed. "File a complaint later," Devon responded, moving to Commander Trelvik. "Commander, we've created an extraction route for the hostages." Trelvik's compound eyes focused on Devon with new assessment.
Your team initiated this operation without authorization.
"We initiated this operation because people were about to die," Devon corrected, cutting through the commander's restraints. "And because this entire crisis is manufactured to seize control of some telepathic amplification minerals." Before Trelvik could respond, a figure lunged from the vapor. Krasvex, holding an energy weapon significantly more advanced than standard Krith technology. The weapon discharged, missing Devon but striking Monique, who had been approaching with medical supplies for injured hostages. Blood sprayed across the chamber as the blast caught Monique's shoulder. The scent hit Devon's awareness like an electric shock, triggering an involuntary response hardwired by evolution. His pupils fully dilated, posture lowering into a combat stance, movements becoming fluid and predatory. Krasvex froze momentarily, compound eyes registering the transformation. This was not the diplomatic human the Galactic Council had described. This was something his species recognized on a primal level, a predator fully engaged. Devon moved without hesitation, evading a second blast while closing distance with Krasvex. His attack pattern targeted vulnerable joints in the Krith's exoskeleton with precision born from both training and instinct. Each strike was economical, designed to neutralize with the minimum force required. Around the chamber, similar transformations occurred among the human team as they registered Monique's injury. The remaining militants, witnessing this collective shift in human behavior, spread terrified communications about death wrapped in diplomats' clothing. Commander Trelvik and the other hostages watched in shock as the formerly dismissed human team executed a flawlessly coordinated assault that incapacitated multiple armed militants without casualties. The contrast between their previous diplomatic personas and this display of controlled predatory efficiency could not have been more stark. Within minutes, the situation had reversed. Militants lay restrained or unconscious, while hostages gathered near extraction points Devon's team had secured. Monique, despite her injury, was already providing emergency treatment to wounded diplomats, her medical training overriding personal pain. Devon approached Krasvex, who lay immobilized but conscious after their confrontation. "This operation is over," he stated with calm authority. "We have transmitted evidence of your conspiracy to the Harmony."
You've changed nothing,
Krasvex responded, mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement or defiance.
The Council knew of your capabilities. That is why they constrained you. Now you've proven their fears justified.
Before Devon could respond, the facility's communications suddenly restored, not from Marcus's efforts, but from external override. The main display activated, showing the approach of a Galactic Council enforcement vessel.
"This is Senior Arbiter Dravmore of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division,"
announced a severe-looking Balmori whose ornate uniform denoted high rank.
"We are responding to emergency protocols activated from Vega 9. All parties are instructed to maintain positions pending our arrival."
Devon exchanged glances with Commander Trelvik. "Convenient timing," he remarked. almost as if they were waiting nearby. Observer Drav stepped forward, straightening his robes.
The Council always responds promptly to crises involving valuable resources.
Valuable resources, Devon repeated. Not valuable lives? The observer didn't answer, instead activating a personal communication device now that jamming had ceased. Devon gathered his team while maintaining security on the restrained militants. Status report, he ordered, concern evident as he examined Monique's wounds.
I'll live,
she assured him, applying a regenerative patch to her shoulder.
Cauterize most of the damage immediately.
We transmitted partial data before communications were restored,
Marlowe reported,
but I'm not sure how much got through.
Council vessel will dock in approximately 20 minutes,
Sophia added, monitoring external systems.
They're broadcasting security protocols that will override facility controls upon arrival.
Devon made a rapid assessment. The arrival of Council enforcers should have been welcome news, reinforcements to secure the hostages and militants. Yet Observer Drav's reaction and Krasvex's confidence suggested something else entirely.
They're here for the mineral deposits,
Devon realized, not to resolve the hostage situation.
Standard containment protocols would quarantine all witnesses,
Eli noted grimly,
including us.
Devon turned to Shara, who had joined them during the confusion.
These telepathic amplification minerals, how important are they to your people?
They are sacred,
she replied.
Not just valuable, but central to our cultural identity. Their frequencies resonate with our neural patterns in ways we've built our society around.
Devon nodded, decision made.
Then we need to ensure the truth gets out before the Council can contain it.
He turned to his team.
We're going to oppose Council authority directly.
The team barely reacted to what would have been unthinkable hours before. After breaking protocol to rescue hostages, defying the Council itself seemed a logical extension.
Marcus, find a way to broadcast everything we've learned outside Council-controlled channels.
Sophia, secure as much of the facility systems as possible before the enforcement vessel can override them. Eli, establish defensible positions around the hostages.
What about the minerals?
Sophia asked.
We're not here to seize resources,
Devon clarified.
We're protecting people and exposing the truth.
As his team moved to execute their assignments, Devon approached Commander Trelvik, who had been observing the humans with analytical intensity.
Commander, I've violated protocols and will accept consequences,
Devon stated.
But right now, we need to prevent the Council enforcers from disappearing witnesses and evidence.
Trelvik's compound eyes focused on Devon with an unreadable expression.
The humans in my command are not what the Corps described in our briefings.
No, Devon acknowledged. We're not.
You could have seized control at any time during our missions together.
That wasn't our purpose. It still isn't.
Trelvik seemed to reach a decision.
The primary directive of the Galactic Peace Corps is to protect sentient rights and maintain justice. Protocol violations are secondary concerns.
His mandibles moved in a pattern Devon had never seen before.
I will support your authority in this matter, Captain Harris.
It was the first time Trelvik had acknowledged Devon's rank without qualification. 23 minutes later, Arbiter Dravmore entered the processing chamber with a complement of Council enforcers. The scene that greeted him was not what he expected. Instead of chaos, he found an organized security perimeter maintained jointly by the human team and Commander Trelvik's Balmori officers, who had recovered enough to resume duties. The hostages were secured in a protected area, receiving medical treatment from Dr. Washington. The militants were detained separately, with Krasvex isolated under heavy guard.
What is the meaning of this?
Dravmore demanded, focusing on Observer Drav.
Your communication indicated the situation was uncontained.
The human peacekeepers intervened without authorization,
Observer Drav replied stiffly.
The situation evolved rapidly.
Devon stepped forward. Arbiter Dravmore, we've uncovered evidence of conspiracy involving Council representatives, Krith militants, and the telepathic amplification minerals indigenous to Vega 9. This entire crisis was manufactured to circumvent indigenous rights protections.
Captain Harris exceeds his authority.
Dravmore responded dismissively.
Humans serve advisory roles in the Corps. Stand down and submit to debriefing.
I cannot comply with that order, Devon replied evenly, not when it would compromise the safety of these people and the evidence we've secured. Dravmore's expression hardened.
This facility is now under quarantine protocols. All personnel will be isolated pending investigation. Enforcers, secure the human peacekeepers.
As the enforcers moved forward, Devon gave a subtle signal. Throughout the chamber, his team activated systems they'd prepared during the brief window before the Council vessel's arrival. Facility communication networks suddenly broadcast all evidence they'd gathered, the conspiracy, the Council involvement, the true value of the minerals, to every Peace Corps vessel in the sector.
What have you done?
Dravmore demanded as alerts flashed on his communications device. Ensured that containment isn't an option, Devon answered. The truth about this situation has been transmitted to too many witnesses to disappear. Using the momentary confusion, Devon addressed the chamber's main communication system. This is Captain Devon Harris of the Galactic Peace Corps, invoking emergency witness protocol under Section 12 of the Corps Charter. I formally testify that Council representatives conspired with Krith militants to manufacture this crisis on Vega 9, endangering diplomatic personnel to seize control of resources protected by indigenous rights laws. Commander Trelvik stepped forward.
I, Commander Trelvik, Senior Officer of Peacekeeping Vessel Harmony, confirm this testimony and support Captain Harris's invocation of Emergency Witness Protocol.
Shara Dean joined them.
As recognized representative of the indigenous population of Vega 9, I invoke Article 7 of the Sentient Rights Accord, claiming protection against resource appropriation without consent.
The legal maneuvers weren't just symbolic. The cited provisions required full Council review before any further action could be taken regarding the disputed resources or witnesses to the events. It effectively tied Dravmore's hands unless he was willing to openly violate Core Council laws. The Arbiter assessed the situation with cold calculation.
You understand the consequences of these actions, Captain Harris. Humans have tenuous status in galactic society. This display confirms concerns about your species' unpredictability.
Our unpredictability just saved lives, Devon countered. If that costs us status in a system that values political convenience over truth, so be it. Before the confrontation could escalate further, new alerts sounded. Additional Peace Corps vessels were arriving in response to the broadcasts, reinforcements beyond Dravmore's ability to contain or control. The Arbiter made a tactical retreat.
This matter will be resolved through proper channels. All evidence and testimony will be preserved for Council review.
He turned to his enforcers.
Secure the militants only. Establish a perimeter around the mineral deposits pending resolution.
It wasn't victory, but it was acknowledgement that the situation had moved beyond Dravmore's ability to suppress. The conspiracy had been exposed too thoroughly for simple containment. As the enforcers withdrew to their modified objectives, Devon's team regrouped. The predatory intensity that had characterized their combat operations had receded, replaced by the focused professionalism that was their normal state, a duality the galactic community had failed to understand.
Think we still have jobs after this?
Marlowe asked wryly.
I'd be satisfied with just not getting assassinated, to be honest,
Sophia replied. Devon watched as Monique treated injured hostages with gentle competence, the same hands that had efficiently incapacitated militants now bringing comfort to the wounded. The contradiction wasn't really a contradiction at all. just the complex reality of a species evolved to be both predator and protector.
Whatever happens, he told his team, we did what we came here to do. We kept the peace in one way or another.
3 weeks later, Devon stood before the Galactic Council's disciplinary committee aboard administrative vessel Justice Eternal. The proceedings had drawn unprecedented attention, with representatives from dozens of species attending as observers. The human diplomatic corps had expected career-ending censure at minimum, possibly expulsion of humans from the Peace Corps entirely. Instead, the inquiry had transformed into something unexpected, a fundamental reassessment of humanity's role in galactic society. Commander Trelvik had provided testimony that shocked the committee.
The human team demonstrated capabilities the Corps has deliberately suppressed. Their tactical assessment, which I dismissed, would have prevented the crisis had I heeded it. Their combat effectiveness, which we systematically undervalued, saved lives when conventional approaches failed. The Corps has misclassified and misused human peacekeepers based on political convenience rather than objective assessment.
Shara's testimony had been equally powerful.
The Council's fundamental misunderstanding of human biology and psychology nearly resulted in disaster. Humans are not what you've claimed them to be, but their predatory capabilities coexist with ethical constraints that many species lack. They could have seized control at any point, but chose to protect us instead.
The final witness had been Arbiter Dravmore himself, whose testimony reluctantly confirmed the conspiracy reaching into the Council's highest levels. The subsequent political crisis had forced unprecedented transparency reforms and reassignments throughout Council governance. Now, as the committee prepared to announce its findings, Devon stood at attention in his formal uniform, prepared for whatever consequences came. Counselor Adjudicator Vela, a venerable Vegalian whose translucent skin had faded with age, addressed the assembly.
After thorough review, this committee finds that while Captain Harris violated explicit protocols regarding human peacekeeping roles, these violations occurred in response to extraordinary circumstances that threatened lives and fundamental rights.
She continued, her harmonics resonating with formal authority.
More significantly, this incident has revealed systematic misrepresentation of human capabilities within galactic institutions. Whether through deliberate policy or cultural misunderstanding, humans have been incorrectly classified and inappropriately restricted.
Devon maintained his composure as the adjudicator announced the committee's decision.
Captain Harris is hereby promoted to Regional Commander with authority to establish new integrated training protocols for human peacekeepers. The Corps will immediately review all restrictions on human service capabilities with the goal of appropriate integration based on actual rather than presumed attributes.
The assembly erupted in mixed reactions, surprise, concern, approval, and trepidation flowing through the gathered representatives. Devon himself felt momentary disbelief. He had expected punishment, not promotion. After the formal proceedings concluded, Devon found himself approached by Commander Trelvik.
This outcome is unprecedented,
the Balmori officer observed.
Many species remain concerned about expanded human authority within peacekeeping operations.
With good reason, Devon acknowledged. Our history includes both great compassion and terrible violence.
Yet you controlled those predatory aspects even at the height of crisis,
Trelvik noted.
This selective application of aggression is noteworthy.
That's what makes us human, I guess, Devon explained simply. 6 months later, Devon addressed the first mixed class of Peace Corps trainees to include humans in all specializations, including combat and leadership tracks. The training facility on Vega 9, established as part of the resolution that protected the telepathic minerals while allowing limited scientific study, represented a new chapter in human galactic relations. The challenges ahead are significant, Devon told the assembled trainees, humans standing alongside Balaxi, Vegalians, Krith, and a dozen other species. Many in the galactic community now view humans with increased respect, but also increased fear. Our responsibility is to demonstrate that predatory capabilities can coexist with ethical purpose. He activated a training simulation, a hostage scenario reminiscent of the crisis that had changed everything. As the lights dimmed to accommodate various species' visual ranges, Devon's pupils dilated automatically in the darkness. A young Balmori trainee standing nearby noticed the physiological response and flinched involuntarily. Devon acknowledged the reaction with understanding rather than offense. "Yes, this happens automatically," he confirmed to the group. "Many of our predatory traits are involuntary responses. Pupils dilating in darkness, adrenaline releasing under threat, focus narrowing during crisis. But what matters is what we choose to do with these responses." He guided the trainees through the simulation, demonstrating how controlled predatory focus could be directed towards protection rather than aggression. Gradually, the non-human trainees began to understand that humans' evolutionary traits were tools that could serve peaceful purposes when guided by conscious ethical choices. In the observation room overlooking the training floor, Shara watched alongside visiting council representatives. The diplomat beside her voiced concerns that still lingered in council chambers.
Some question whether revealing human nature was worth the political upheaval it caused.
Shara's skin rippled with colors indicating conviction.
Genuine peace can only be built on truth, not comfortable illusions. The previous system was inherently unstable, founded on misunderstanding and fear, rather than accurate assessment.
On the training floor, Devon worked with a mixed team of humans and non-humans navigating the complex simulation. The humans demonstrated their predatory efficiency, while their non-human counterparts contributed unique capabilities humans lacked. Vegalian empathetic insight, Balmori multi-limbed coordination, Krith environmental resilience.
Besides,
Shara added with subtle harmonics of amusement,
humans aren't the only species with hidden depths. The Council's fundamental error was assuming biological predestination dictates behavior. What the Vega 9 incident proved is that choice matters more than capability.
The council representative considered this as they watched the integrated team successfully complete their training objective. The humans moved with grace alongside beings evolved from prey species, each contributing different evolutionary gifts toward a common goal.
Perhaps, the representative conceded, there is wisdom in this integration after all.
Below them, Devon concluded the exercise and gathered the trainees for debriefing. The nervousness that non-human trainees had initially shown around their human counterparts had noticeably diminished through shared experience and mutual understanding. One of the human trainees asked the question that still dominated the discussion throughout galactic society.
Commander Harris, will they ever truly trust us now that they know what we are?
Devon considered the question carefully.
Trust isn't built on ignorance, but on demonstrated character. Yes, humans evolved as predators, but we also evolved as protectors of our families, our communities, our values. Our challenge isn't to hide our nature, but to show that our capacity for violence doesn't undermine our humanity.
He smiled slightly, remembering Shara's words from months earlier.
In the end, what defines any sentient species isn't the biology they inherit, but the choices they make with it.
As the trainees dispersed to their next assignments, Devon caught sight of his reflection in a training room display. The Galactic Peace Corps uniform no longer felt like a costume, but rather a genuine expression of purpose. Humanity's predatory nature hadn't changed, but its understanding throughout the galaxy had, moving from fearful misconception to complex truth. It wasn't perfect acceptance, it wasn't universal trust, but it was an honest beginning based on what humans truly were, rather than what others wished them to be.